much of this opening for you two is the result of, at least when I go to political events, I am finding an extraordinary number of people are undecided very, very late in this process, because they no longer think Vice President Biden is inevitable. And hasn't that been one of your challenges as well all along, is that there just hasn't been enough oxygen for voters who aren't so far to the left to think that they have another option?
Well, I think that has been, for me, I am that person for them. I have always had strong support from independent voters. I get this. I think this election isn't just an economic check, which is what most of our debates are. It's also a decency check on this president. It's a patriotism check. It is the decision of people like Doug Jones of Alabama and Mitt Romney to say, enough. This is not moral. This guy has got to go. To see the former Republican presidential candidate make that decision, and then to be in Democratic rallies like I was in. I brought it up every single rally I was in, and everyone cheered Mitt Romney. The world is a bit upside down. And the reason the world is that way is there's a bunch of people out there, especially in this state, that don't agree with everything that's said on the debate stage. I don't agree with everything that's said on the debate stage. But what they do agree on is that the heart of America is bigger than the heart of this guy in the White House. And so to bring those people in.
Jonathan, so following up on that idea, there's an idea, you have some daylight now, the idea that Joe Biden has perhaps faded some, and you contrast yourself with Mayor Pete Buttigieg, but there's a shadow looming in that moderate lane, and that's Michael Bloomberg, who is not competing here in this state, obviously, but is aiming for a little bit down the road. What sort of threat does he pose to you in that lane? And frankly, do you feel like this is what this Democratic field needs right now? Someone like Mayor Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York City, spending untold amount of monies, trying to woo the same voters that you are.
Anyone can run for president, but I truly believe that people look at Trump, they look at the guy in the White House, and they don't say to themselves, can I get someone richer? I don't think they think like that. You know, they know that he went down to Mar-a-Lago after he signed that tax bill and said to his wealthy friends, you just got a lot richer. No one in this room right now was in that room in Mar-a-Lago. And I think the best contrast to Donald Trump is someone like me. The Midwest is not flyover country to me. I'm going to be able to say that to Donald Trump on the debate stage. I live there. The people that he's hurting with his trade war, they are not poker chips in a bankrupt casino to me. They are my friends and my neighbors. My differences with Michael Bloomberg, I'm the granddaughter of an iron ore miner, the daughter of a teacher and a newspaperman, first woman elected to the U.S. Senate from the state of Minnesota, and a candidate for president of the United States. And I actually think Michael Bloomberg should be on that debate stage. And I would like to see my friends Cory Booker and others still on that debate stage. But the point of it is this. If he's not on the debate stage, I would much rather debate him on the debate stage than try to outspend him on the airwaves. Because I am not going to make that one, but I can debate him on the debate stage. So that's what I do.
Amy Klobuchar, thank you so much for being on the show this morning.
Okay, this was great. Thank you.
Good luck. We'll be watching.
Okay, tomorrow night, New Hampshire.
Our second presidential candidate of the morning, Senator Michael Bennet, is here. He joins the conversation next on Morning Joe.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.